Okay, again. What are we here for? Katsuki demanded for the 5th time since they began nearing the town. Spices and socks. You and Eijirou chimed together with practiced ease. And what are we not getting? Katsuki continued, daring them to answer wrong. Anything else? You and Eijirou reply monotonously. And why not? Because coin is not something we should spend carelessly. You finished together, feeling much like a child being warned. Good, Katsuki grunted, satisfied with their compliancy. Once his back was turned, Eijirou's gaze dropped to his feet, and he pouted. Before Katsuki had begun his periodic warnings, he had been brimming with excitement. Their chatter was an endless flow of the amazing things that could be found in Kirishima. But at the first mention of Eijirou buying something, Katsuki had basically swung his oversized sword and nipped their expensive ideas in the bud. You squeeze Eijirou's hand in yours and smile, hoping to convey that it was okay if they didn't buy anything. He nodded, squeezing back. Kirishima, as Eijirou put it, was a prestigious town, considered to be the richest on the continent. It was a hotspot for the trade of fine clothing and jewelry, due to its fortune of being built next to a mine overflowing with precious gems and metals. The mine was found by a certain family a couple hundred years ago, and that family brokered deals with influential figureheads in the town, for all within to prosper from their findings. As time went on, and the town's treasures grew plenty and cultured, the rich were drawn in to splurge on the countless items in Kirishima that sparkled. As you trekked closer to the town, you caught glimpses of things from the numerous passing wagons, shimmers from a ball gown caught in a wagon's edge, glitters from a necklace dangling from a trader's pocket. You shivered from both your curiosity and the crisp air that attacked slips of your exposed skin. Though it wasn't yet winter, the frosted breeze promised its soon arrival. Though Katsuki was frugal, you were grateful that he'd spent a pretty penny on warm furs for you. Between them and Eijirou's emanating warmth, the cold was bearable. You were unsure what you expected, entering Kirishima, but gigantic diamonds donning the arch of the entrance was not it. Each diamond was at least the size of a soccer ball and embedded into the frame of the arch. As you walk through, you mumble, "What I wouldn't give to take one of those home." "No stealing," Katsuki snapped. "Most of the stuff has anti-theft charms on them. You take one thing, and your head will be rolling on the ground before you can say sorry." "I was not going to steal anything," you say indignantly. "Yeah, we're just looking, Katsuki, like you told us to," Eijirou defended, seeming moody from the repeated order to not buy anything. Katsuki rolled his eyes. "Whatever, idiots. Stay close." As you walk, you notice the not too subtle differences between this town and every other you'd been to in this realm. The buildings were built high with rich dark wood akin to ebony, their designs flawless and neat with curving roofs and black chains connecting them to the ground. You wonder curiously if they were meant to guide rain. The wagons moved with almost clinical order, so unlike the hustle and bustle you'd gotten used to. As you neared the city center, more people trickled into view. People that walked with poise and refinement carved into every step. Their cloaks were thick and bright with color and shiny stones. Their clothing underneath seemed grander with intricate embroidery that could only have been done by hand. You couldn't help but feel a little inadequate with your simple clothes when faced with that beauty. Katsuki glanced at the passing prestige with distaste. "I want to be out of here before the sun sets. I can't stand these pampered, overdressed pigs. Both of you, do not wander out of my sight for 1 second, all right? I want you and the gold in my direct vision." Come on, Katsuki, you're acting like we're little kids about to get lost in a store, you complain. What's a store again? He asked, glancing back and then stopped abruptly. He stared impassively and waited for you to answer. You pause, confused by his actions, and answer unsurely. It's like a really big shop, like it has a lot of aisles. So this is similar to that, but 10 times worse, because Eijirou is a fucking dragon, and everything here is shiny as fuck, he says, gritting his teeth in a malicious smile. His gaze swerved next to you, where Eijirou should have been. You turn, wondering where he'd gone, when you notice him following a cart that had its jewel-encrusted daggers hung up and exposed. His pupils were blown, the glassy black reflecting the glimmer from the blades. You exhale. Come on, that doesn't count. He can't help it. Which is why I want you both within my radius, and out of buying needless things radius. Now go and get Eijirou before he trades his scales again. You sigh, defeated. Yeah, I'm going. You take Eijirou's hand just as it reached for a knife and pulled him gently away. Sorry, E. I was only looking. Eijirou pouted. Of course, you nod, knowing that if you waited another 5 seconds, they may have all been in debt for the next few years. Who knows how much that dagger cost? You understood Katsuki's concern the moment you entered the main marketplace, and your eyes were assaulted by the endless color and glaring brightness. Every stall seemed to shine, whether it sold clothing or weaponry. You held on tight to Eijirou's hand as you watched the black of his pupils swallow the red. He vibrated with the desire of the valuables before him, and you were worried you wouldn't be able to hold him back from his dragon instincts. Look at that, Eijirou said, dazzled and smiling toothily. Those earrings will look so good on you. Traveler, maybe we should try them on and… Katsuki whipped around. What are we here for? Eijirou's enthusiasm diminished under Katsuki's irritation. Spices and socks, he said glumly. Katsuki turned his annoyance to you, and you glare back. I didn't do anything. You're not controlling him, he said pointedly. Katsuki, you placate. He didn't buy anything, he's just looking. Katsuki narrowed his eyes. If you let him buy something, I won't feed you, he threatened. Don't talk about Eijirou like he's not here, you chide. And I can feed myself. You know you prefer it when I cook. You nearly burn everything because you're afraid tiny invisible creatures are out to get you, Katsuki mocked. It's bacteria, you say, exasperated, having had this talk with Katsuki before. I don't get how you can admit that undercooked meat does make you sick, but you won't believe me about germs? Katsuki watched you with an unimpressed expression. I believe a lot of your stories, traveler, but this one is just too far-fetched. Now, what are we here for? You roll your eyes, but answer with agitated exaggeration. Spices and socks. Great. And where is Kirishima? You scrunch your eyebrows and ask with puzzlement. What do you mean, he's right? You turn to your side, expecting to see Eijirou, but empty air swirled in his place. You whip around, finding Eijirou trailing behind a food cart, selling some gold-encrusted chicken skewers at least 5 meters away. You blink twice, trying to comprehend how he'd gotten so far, so fast, and hurry to bring him back. Eijirou, no! You say, grabbing onto his arm and attempting to yank him back. Salivating like a predator after a kill, Eijirou pleaded. Aw, just one, traveler, please. You couldn't hold him. Your weight was minuscule in comparison with the tank that was the dragon. He began dragging you with him after the meet. Thankfully, Katsuki helped. Or you assumed that was what he was doing. He yanked you back, causing you to trip and bring Eijirou down on top of you, knocking the wind from your lungs. I can't breathe. Clear-headed now, he rushed to help you up. Sorry, are you okay? Let me help you up. He grabs your hand and pulls you up, attentively waiting for you to force breath back into your lungs. Again, I ask, Katsuki says theatrically. What are we here for? You and Eijirou chime reluctantly. Spices and socks. Great, he said. Try to remember it. Let's get moving before this place blinds me. Katsuki walks off and you link your arms with a discouraged Eijirou, somehow relating that to a car's safety lock. You sadden at his crestfallen expression, and when Katsuki was far enough, you whisper, Just wait a little. As soon as we have a chance to lose him, we'll get you a souvenir. Eijirou brightens instantly. You're amazing, traveler. What would I do without you? Be subjected to hard ass over there. You joke, ignoring the pang in your heart that announced that he would learn soon enough what it was to be without you. You shake the thoughts from your head, trying not to dwell on them. They walked the market, admiring the beautiful items, when Katsuki finally found a reasonable vendor trading in wool garments. While he haggled with the vendor in his own special, vulgar way, by cursing and yelling, you thought it safe to release Eijirou for a second. He was absorbed in a bedazzled belt in the next stall that you couldn't imagine him actually desiring to buy. You wanted to peek at something that caught your eye across the market quickly before Katsuki finished and hauled them off again. Just as you turned, you noticed the person crossing you drop a handkerchief. You pick it up immediately and call for the man. Excuse me, hi. You touch his shoulder lightly and jerk back when the man swings around. His long white hair framed a face twisted with indignation. How dare you touch me, peasant, he snarled, slapping your hand away. I don't want any of your meaningless things. He paused his rant as his eyes fell onto you fully. You swallowed, worried you'd offended some nobleman or something. After Katsuki's warning about stealing, you weren't sure you wanted to know the punishment for this. Sorry, I wasn't selling anything, I just wanted to return this to you. You dropped it over there. You explained fully, trying to leave no room for misunderstanding. The man doesn't reach for the handkerchief, only stared impassively. It was unnerving how his ghostly silver eyes flicked over you, as though he was analyzing your worth. Behind him, a few others had stopped walking as well, glancing up at the nobleman and then at you curiously. Were they his entourage or something? You swallow, unsure of how to proceed and uncomfortable with the amount of attention on you. Finally, he spoke again. Where are you from? He demanded. Oh, far from here. Another continent. Very small. You might not know it, you say nervously. He hums, his lips quirking up as he moves closer to you. You step back, startled. A rare breed, he says, his eyes still scanning you with consideration. Breed? You question, perturbed by the strange interaction. His hand raises to ghost over the skin of your cheek, and you flinch back from the iciness. You have such peculiar features. Uncanny, but alluring all the same. He smiled like he planned to grant your greatest wish. Would you like a life of luxury? For your every need to be catered to? Would you like to have everything you've ever dreamed of, peasant? Your eyes are wide with shock, and you shake your head maybe a little too fast. No thank you, but I appreciate the offer. This guy reminded you a bit too much of a demon trying to make a contract to steal your soul. His features freeze over in the next moment. He tilts his head like he couldn't comprehend your answer. I don't think you understand what I'm offering you, peasant. You will be my first official concubine. You could never want for anything else. You try to put some space between you and the man, feeling immensely uncomfortable. That is very generous, but I unfortunately have somewhere to be. I respectfully decline. The man's eyes flickered with rage. He advanced, his hand forming frost along its fingers, as though he intended to strike. How dare you reject me? Do you know who I am? You stumble back, reaching for your dagger. Young Lord Getten! One of the people yelled, grabbing him by his arm. People are staring, my lord. You noticed their commotion had caught the inquisitive stares of the passerbys. Do not stoop to the likes of this insignificant beggar. Okay, ouch, you didn't think your clothes were that bad? You don't want word getting back to your father that you appear desperate for someone lesser. The underling eyed you up and down with disgust, as though to further his point. You pout. Did he have to be so mean? The man glances at the onlookers and retreats, gathering his composure. You will regret your decision, peasant, he hisses, before turning his back on you. One of the handmaidens, you assumed, snatched the handkerchief from your hand with a huff and follows on. You stand for a few seconds, processing the bizarre encounter. You didn't think you looked that different from everyone here? Definitely couldn't be exotic enough to be a part of the man's special harem, whoever he was. Oi! Didn't I tell you to stay close? Do you and Eijirou have some fucking brain defect? Katsuki growls with agitation, as he yanks Eijirou with him to confront you. You were supposed to watch Eijirou. You try to shake off the weirdness from a few moments ago and approach Katsuki's anger. I was only gone for a few seconds. Someone dropped their handkerchief. Everyone here is rich, Katsuki laments. They can afford to buy a new handkerchief. We can't afford Eijirou wrecking something. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, you say, locking Eijirou back in your hold. Did you get the socks? Yeah, and they were fucking overpriced, so make them last. Come on, let's get the spices quickly and get out. The rest of the afternoon passed with no incident and no sign of the strange nobleman, thankfully. They had successfully completed Katsuki's mission of obtaining a good few pairs of socks for each of them, and a sufficient number of spices so they wouldn't have to suffer through bland meals. But while Katsuki was satisfied with his haul, you felt guilty for not managing to fulfill your promise to Eijirou. Katsuki had been too careful, likely suspecting your plan all along. With every reasonable yet gaudy item you saw and thought Eijirou may like, Katsuki was there to yank you away. You weren't completely sure, but once you exited the city, he seemed annoyingly smug at thwarting your plans. You'd apologize to a clearly upset Eijirou, but he tried to pretend to not care about it. Luckily, he didn't pout for long. Once they'd made their way up the hill, far enough to look over the town, just as the darkness seemed to deepen, stars began to light themselves on the planet. Above the town, one by one, lights sparked. Bright and beautiful and mesmerized, you wonder how big each must be to glow so brightly from this distance. Kirameku appeared as though they'd bartered with the sky for a plot of its stars to keep on land. Whatever price they paid, it was worth it. Amazing, you breathe, in awe as you notice the glimmers. Eijirou turned, his eyes widening to mirror the glows. Whoa. Katsuki briefly flicks his gaze your way and rolls his eyes. A waste of precious gems. Come on, keep moving. You huff. Who hurt you, Katsuki? My mother, he repeated unseriously. The town had put Katsuki in an awfully prickly mood, and that was exhausting for everyone. You were aching to make camp and sleep off the day, hopeful that tomorrow you would want to smack Katsuki less. Eijirou seemed to share some of that sentiment and fatigue. Why couldn't we stay in an inn? He whined as they marched. The ground had become even once again, and you knew it couldn't be much further until they found a viable campsite. Katsuki answered irritably. Because that shitty city thinks they fell from the skies and that they live amongst the gods. Their fucking inns cost as much as buying a boat. You couldn't take much more of this on your sore feet. You begin to question. Katsuki, can't we make camp now? Where? As you take your next step, a harsh pain spikes through your chest, and you gasp. The pain shot so suddenly near your heart, you think a dagger had bloomed within it. You clutch your chest, realizing outside your sudden affliction, Eijirou and Katsuki were also doubled over, mirroring your position. What was that? You struggle to ask. The pain was slow to leave, but becoming bearable as the seconds tick by. Yet, as the stabbing ache faded, a heaviness fell upon you, like an oppressive layer of skin hindering your movements. No idea, Katsuki forced out, having difficulty speaking. But we should get the fuck out of here, now. Eijirou's head snapped to the side, his ear tilted out. People are coming. A lot of people. Fuck, move, before they... It was too late. People clad in armor emerged from the shadows of the forest, surrounding the three of you. They appeared to be guards, each with a metallic spear poised to strike. Through your surprise, you did not count them, but they were undoubtedly outnumbered. What the fuck do you dumbasses want? Katsuki shouted with ire. Who are you, and why are you trespassing on our lord's land? A guard yelled back. He can't own the entire fucking forest. You were grabbed abruptly by your arm and yanked sideways. Hey! Let them go! Eijirou moved to stop the guard that held you, but the others advanced. One going so far as to thrust his spear directly above the skin of Eijirou's neck. The guard stared at you only a moment before nodding to the others. This is the one. Take them. You were grabbed without warning, your wrists clamped together behind your back. Though Eijirou and Katsuki were a little more difficult to restrain, Eijirou bore his fangs and bellowed, fury erupting in vermilion like a volcano spilling lava. Let them go! Restrain him now! Katsuki gritted his teeth and opened his palms with the intent to attack, but nothing happened. What? Katsuki looked down at his hands, confused. What's wrong with my magic? There was a pause as you and Eijirou stared. Merely a few seconds of distraction, but enough for the guards to surge. Thick chains roped around Eijirou, squashing his wings and restraining his arms. Despite how he struggled, the chains seemed too heavy and unyielding. Katsuki reached for Eijirou, but a spear jabbed forward, sinking into his back, and he cried out. Katsuki! You shout, struggling against your captor. The guards are swift in latching restraints onto his wrists as well, but he did not cease to resist, until a circle of spears converged at Eijirou's throat. If Eijirou so much as swallowed, you were sure it would touch the tips. Move! The guard that held you yelled. Oi! What the fuck do you want with us? Katsuki growled. A cool blade touched your throat, and you stilled with fear. "Move," the guard repeated, the threat unspoken but very clear. Katsuki snarled, but conceded. His magic may not be working, but he burned the frozen air with his gaze. The guards gave them no choice but to let them be led away. They marched reluctantly through the forest, further than you expected, considering they had targeted you three because you were trespassing. Was all of this the Lord's land? Eventually, they'd arrived at a wall that stretched above the trees. Were they going to be thrown in some kind of prison? But no prison you knew of was so beautiful on the inside. They were ushered through black gates into a vast garden, rich with colors despite the darkness of the night. Among the various and vibrant blues, reds, and violets, and many more, was the outlying white, a flower resembling a tree peony, but like snow had been sculpted to form its delicate petals. The wide, white flowers were luminescent, dwarf stars among the others that would be silhouettes if not for its light. The mansion the garden adorned towered over them as they approached. The grey stone was fashioned into a miniature castle. You imagined if royalty wanted a winter lodge, it would look like this. The inside was laid with light blue and crystal, from the luxurious plush carpeting to the velvety drapes, strung with diamond-like beading. Despite the kidnapping, you felt a little guilty for tracking mud inside. You entered a wide room that reminded you of a throne room, with its long walkway leading up to 3 sizable chairs. Above their heads, a massive chandelier of sapphires hung in spirals, and you couldn't help the intrusive thought about what might happen if it were to fall right now. The throne-like seats were elevated by a few steps, and upon the central, largest one, you were surprised to find the strange nobleman you'd met in the market. He sat with his legs crossed artfully, his expression smug, like a child who'd thrown a tantrum and got the toy they wanted. "It's you," you blurted out carelessly. The guard behind you pushed you forcefully to the ground. Your knees clashed harshly with the cold, solid floor, and you grit your teeth from the sharp pain. "How dare you address the young lord so casually?" he yelled, yanking your head back by your hair, exposing your neck further to the dagger threatening your life. "You don't have to treat them that way. They didn't know," Eijirou shouted, moving for you despite his restraints, and causing the spears to reduce their distance. He bared his teeth at the guards. If not for whatever magic was holding him back, you were sure this fancy place before you would have already been up in flames. You shook with fright, afraid to take a breath too deep that may slice your throat open. Katsuki glared your way, and then up at the man on the throne. "I'm guessing you're the one in charge here? Fucking explain why the fuck you brought us here." The guards advanced on Katsuki, but the man just raised his hand to halt them, answering simply, "You were trespassing." A small table stood before him, with a silver tray of cubed meat. He sunk his fork into a square, eating languidly as though he had nothing but time to waste. Katsuki took a frustrated step forward, but could only go so far with the guard holding him. "You can't claim the whole damn forest as your land. You're gonna catch every fucking traveler trading in Kirishima that way. You're gonna accuse all of them of trespassing?" "I don't know what to tell you," the nobleman drawled, as he ate another piece of meat. "You were caught by my guards, and rather unfortunately, the punishment for trespassing on Lord Himura's land is death. But considering I'm in a good mood today, I will accept a reasonable fee in exchange for the inconvenience." "Fuck no," Katsuki rebutted instantly. "Is this how you rich idiots make your fortune? Preying on the gold of innocent people passing? Go to the depths and maybe you'll find your gold there." Katsuki, it's either pay them or die, Eijirou said, his eyes fixed worriedly not on the weapons poised for his life, but at the dagger ready to take yours. Have some perspective. No! Who the fuck does he think he is? You're not fucking royalty, but I bet you think you are, sitting on some fake-ass makeshift throne. I ain't paying you a copper. A spark of rage lit in the man's grey eyes, and he jerked his head towards the guard behind Katsuki. Quicker than they could blink, a spear was swung to the back of Katsuki's head, the impact audible and terrifying as he crumpled to the ground. Katsuki! You scream, forgetting your threat and trying to get to him, your eyes wide with horror as you see the blood coloring his fair hair. Hey, stay still! We'll pay the sum, whatever it is, Eijirou said, the gravity of their danger seeming to sink in. Just let us leave alive! The man took a deep breath and smiled, but nothing but malice touched his eyes. I have not introduced myself properly. I am Lord Geton, Lord Himura's only son, and while my father is away, I am in charge of the lovely town Kirameku. It is my honor to ensure troublemakers such as yourself are properly dealt with. And I don't believe any amount of coin matches the amount of disrespect I have experienced thus far from your little party. Then what do you want? Eijirou questioned unsurely. Geton's eyes turned to you. I will take them as compensation. With the rush of events, you'd nearly forgotten his insistent request in the marketplace. Was that the reason they were targeted? Were you the reason Katsuki was currently bleeding on the floor? No, Eijirou denied immediately. You can't have them. You can have anything else, all our gold, but the price of your lives is them. Geton cut off impatiently. Apparently tired of his own game, he reached for you, grabbing your jaw in a bruising grip. A frosty coldness began to spread along your skin. Do you or do you not agree to be my first concubine? He snarled, the glacial anger in his eyes piercing and paralyzing you with terror. This man had gone to such lengths to ensure your choices were stripped. Tears began to form in your eyes. You weren't even sure what a concubine was. How could you agree? Geton's glare flicked to Eijirou, and spears advanced, pushing forward to graze his skin. Yes! You cry. I'll be your concubine, just stop! The animosity in Geton's eyes reshaped to repulsive glee, and you suddenly felt sick at your choice, or lack thereof. Just what did you agree to? No! Eijirou shouted, horror in his eyes. Traveler, you can't! You don't know what it means! Take him away. This one too, Geton interrupted abruptly, waving the guards that held you to move aside. He caressed your cheek, with more care this time. Get them prepared at once. Prepared? Prepared for what? You questioned internally, a cold unease taking over your body.